So I was just a few weeks shy of 41 years old when I got saved. And up to that point, I had, while I had been in the Navy and I'd worked in mining and construction and was pretty foul and pretty proud of it, I guess. And I had a fear of the future. It was like being in a hole and never could climb out of it. Under my own power, get maybe close to the top and then fall back into it. And it was never, there was never any peace in my heart. And I had the opportunity to be in a good church. The gospel was preached often. Doctrine was preached. It was very straight. And because I had insincerely prayed and to receive the Lord, then I never did get saved. I had thought that I was. But the despair never went away. Eventually, when July 16th of 2000, I knew without a doubt that up till then, my attempts to save myself were a farce. And so I received the Lord. I asked Him to save me, and He did. And it was the first peace I had ever known. And if that was all that I had gotten, then it and all of the rejection, everything from my family, it was worth it just for that one moment of peace. But it didn't just last a moment. It's far more reaching than that first moment. And the morning after I got saved, when I thanked God for my family, there was an answer. And up to that point, there was never an answer. So I'm very grateful. The Lord Jesus Christ is a good cause, and He's the only cause. And since lifestyle evangelism doesn't work, He's still worth talking about to anyone that'll listen. And any time that person will open his mouth, He says He will fill it. And so on His behalf, there are fewer and fewer people that will listen. There are fewer people that are excited about what I was excited about when it happened to me. But by the same token, if they'll listen, then I have a story to tell them, and I'm very grateful for that. And that the story is God's story, not mine. Thank you.
Bill, you want to come up here?
Well, my name is Bill Haldeman, and I owe you people an explanation why I don't shake hands. One big reason is I got saved in '93. I had a chiropractor tell me that I needed to get God in my life, and I needed to get God in my marriage and God in our business, or I'm just headed down a dead-end road. So anyway, they invited me to church, and it was a Pentecostal church, and I welcomed it, and I went there. So anyway, after I got saved in '93, I used to pray every day. God, it's easy to say you're a Christian in the United States. We have freedom of speech, freedom of religion. What would happen if I was in a life and death situation? Would I grow closer to you, or would I run from you? Well, I was in many close accidents. I was a heavy haul specialist for 20 years. But those, they come and go. So, 1995, about 2 weeks before I wound up in the hospital, My wife said to me, sometimes I cry, so bear with me. My wife says, you know, Bill, I think you're sick. There's something wrong with you. I never saw you sleep or anything like this. We used to own a lodge, Big Moors Run Lodge in Pennsylvania. We were the first guide and outfitter in the state. We were the first Orvis endorsed fly fishing lodge east of Mississippi. 95, April 3rd, October 3rd, they took me to the hospital. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Since 1967, when I came back from Southeast Asia, because I was in the Coast Guard, we can't say Vietnam, but I was in the Coast Guard and I had 22 months in Southeast Asia. They put me in the hospital running high fevers and everything, and couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So the doctor was a good friend of mine. They told me I had 3 gallstones. I was leaving the hospital that night, October 3rd. I'm leaving, I'm out of here. Well, they said, you got 3 gallstones. To this day, I never had gallstones taken out. It turned out when they did an exploratory, I had stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So when the doctor said to me, Bill, you gotta get to a cancer treatment center immediately, I said, I don't have time for that. I said, I got things to do. And he said, Bill, you don't have time. He says, you probably won't see the beginning of the month. He said, you gotta get there. So this doctor that told me, my chiropractor friend said, if I had it to do over with my wife again, I would have sent her, because she died of breast cancer, to Geisinger. It's a little town in the middle of the woods and everything. So that was good enough for me. Well, I went down there and I got a doctor that she thought she was God. So we had a discussion. I said, look, this is the way we play the game. When they told me I was going to probably not see the end of the month, I looked up, I said, well, God, I guess you're showing me. If you're ready for me, I'm ready for you. So, went to this doctor, and she said, I said, the way we play this game is, I tried 2 weeks of living the way you want me to live. If you call that living, put me in a pine box and close it up and bury me, because that's not living. I'm going to do what I can do. What I can't do, I'm not going to do. I'm coming to you only because God can work through your hands if you allow Him. You can't do anything to save my life. You can't do anything to take my life. I'm in God's hands. So anyway, I had 18 treatments of chemo. I had 5 days of total body radiation, an hour a day. I had 42 treatments of pinpoint radiation, stomach, neck, and back. Medically, I'm not supposed to be here. But God, very good man, has blessed me. My back is all fused together. 4 years ago, they were going to take my leg off, my left leg. I had 1 lung. I had a bone marrow transplant that did not work. After the bone marrow transplant, they said, you will be dead within 2 to 3 months. They sold my life insurance policy to pay my medical bills. I'm still here, and I give God all the credit. It's nothing I did, but my doctor begged them to give me a bone marrow transplant because I didn't qualify for one because I never responded to any treatment. So she begged them, that she said, my will to live and my faith in God, would you please just give him an interview? And I said, well, it's not my will to live. I'll tell you that right now. I said, I'm willing to go home if God takes me now. Well, she called Geisinger, or Pittsburgh, West Penn, and asked them if they would grant me an interview. So we went there and we sat down at this big table, and the doctor and his nurse, they said to me, Mr. Haldeman, I said, my name is Bill, it's not Mr. Haldeman. I said, and he says, do you know just why you're here? I looked at him, I said, yeah, I'm dying of cancer. If you don't know that, I'm in trouble. And so he almost fell off his chair. So he said, after the whole interview and everything, he says, you know, you have a slim to no chance at all that you'll ever walk out of this hospital. I said, well, I had a vision. I had a dream one night. If I was going to be a witness to the other people, I had to go to the wall. The wall always came up to me. Go to the wall. Well, anyway, I had the bone marrow transplant. It didn't work. But I had great cancer because I get to I get to witness to a lot of people. I used to do seminars all over the country. And I wrote a testimony and I put it on my table and I tell everybody, I have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. The only reason I'm here is because of God's will to have me here. I don't know why He keeps me here, but I'm here. If you would like one of my tracts, I said, you feel free to pick it up. So I've had great cancer because I get to witness to a lot of people, and I get to talk to a lot of people that are going through situations that they just can't talk to other people because they don't understand. So I know that in my heart, if you do get diagnosed with something that you have no control over, give it to God. Don't try to take it back. Worry is something that tears your body apart. It takes a lot of energy to worry. But if you give it to God, and we're all going to die someday, and accept that fact, that one day we're going to die, but you can't live if you don't die on this earth. So that's why I live my life, and I still go hunting, I go fishing. What I can do, I can do. I'm still breaking horses at 70 now, but I was breaking horses at 68, 69, and I'm still breaking one. But anyway, the thing of it is give it to God. Don't try to take it back. And know that one day it's a better life than what we have here. So that's why I don't shake hands, and I stay away from people, because I do have a very low immune system. So just that you all understand why I don't shake hands here. And if anybody would ever needs anybody to talk to, I'm always willing to talk, even though I talk a lot.
Unlike Tim, I don't hug because I'm just not friendly. Some of y'all won't let me get away with that. Is there anybody else who'd like to give a testimony? You know, I get a blessing out of that because he's right on some of them things he tells you is exactly spot on. You know, I can preach about some things and tell you what the Bible says about, and I know it's true. Unless you've been through something, you don't understand. And you just can't have the weight of talking to someone until you've gone through it. And sometimes that's the reason the Lord does some things that He does to some saints, It's just so they have the experience so they can talk to somebody and be a witness. You don't want to ever forget that when you see a saint going through a hard time and sit there and say, why is that happening? Well, the Lord's doing something with it. And they're the one that's going to figure it out. It'll be them and God. All right, anybody else got a testimony? Brother Mike.
All right. Okay. So some people know a little bit about my testimony, but what I like to talk to people about how I ended up to be saved, because I think it's important for people to know this as you're going through your life. So I was raised in what I guess could be called a broken family, divorced parents, raised with my father's side was Catholic and my mother's side was Methodist, which is to say I hardly went to church, and when I did, it was a Catholic church. And, I lived the life that you would imagine for a kid growing up in that environment. I didn't make good choices. I was on my way to nowhere. And generally, I'm sure that if my life would have continued as it was when I was younger, I probably would have ended up either in a bad situation in a family, maybe in jail, or who knows. But along about the time I was 13 years old, somebody invited me to go out to an event. I don't know how much I knew about it at the time, but I was invited to go to what was then, I was living in Kansas City, Missouri, a Kansas City Youth for Christ rally. And growing up in the 80s, there wasn't a lot to do. So I had a chance to go do something. We were going to get something to eat after. I thought, sure, I'll go. And I went. And, before in my life, I've been to a couple vacation Bible schools and stuff like that. But as far as I can remember, that was the first time that I can recall hearing and understanding the gospel, the story of Jesus Christ, which I never consciously really understood before. Because somebody invited me to go, I heard the story about Jesus Christ. And I've said before, when you hear a story like that, you have to decide what you're going to do. But for me, it wasn't, what am I going to do? It's, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I go forward during the invitation and accept Jesus Christ when he did all that for me? And so I went forward and I got saved that day. And again, being in a family who wasn't church going, none of my relatives were saved as far as I know. I thought, I got to know more about Jesus Christ. I got to know some stuff about this guy. So I went home and I found that we had an old Bible that nobody ever used, and I picked it up and I started reading it. And then I wanted to go to church, and I went to the Catholic priest because I thought, well, surely if you want to know about God, you go to the people who are the experts, right? So I went to the Catholic priest, and he told me about how I can go through these classes and learn this stuff. And I thought, that's not what I want to know. So then I went to where my mother's side of the family went, to the Methodist church. And I talked to the Methodist priest, pastor, whatever you want to call him, and listened to what he had to say. And I thought, I just knew that's not what I'm looking for. And then I had a friend that invited me to go to a Baptist church. Didn't know, just his church. And I jump in the car and go out with him to church, and I sit under a guy who starts preaching from the Word. But as soon as he started talking, I made that connection. I understood what he was saying because he was telling me that everybody can understand what the Scripture has to say, that you can read the Bible and know what God has to say for you. And so about this time when I was trying to understand, I started reading in John. I was going to this church, hearing something for the first time that was connecting with me, that God said that's what I needed to get. And really, my whole life changed. And my life changed in the way that because somebody invited me to go to a church where I heard a presentation of the gospel, I got saved. My sisters got saved. I invited my mom to church. My mom got saved. I worked on my dad for years, and my dad said he got saved. I've got a lot of saved relatives. I've been door knocking. I looked for every opportunity to do what somebody was kind enough to do for me, which was to present me with an opportunity to accept Jesus Christ as my Savior. So to me, it's a big deal. I'm married to a Christian woman. I have 2 boys that are saved. I'm living a life that I don't deserve because I had no model for that growing up. I don't know what a family was like. So if you're raised in a family with parents that stuck together, that they tried to do the right thing for you, you're lucky, because I have no idea what that's like. And so I had to figure it out as I went along, and I'm sure I've made mistakes, but I'm grateful that God gave me the opportunity to try and be better, and that I've always had a desire to understand those things because I knew that they weren't something that came natural to me. So I'm grateful for not only the opportunity to get saved, and I tell you, if you know people, I know my life is different because I got saved. Clearly. Everything good in my life, everything good about me is because of Jesus Christ and God. Everything. There isn't anything decent in my life that didn't come as a direct result of God intervening and helping me out. I guarantee you that that's true. I shudder to think the kind of person that I would have been if it wasn't for God and for Jesus Christ and for going to church and all that stuff. So to me, it's important. I tried to get into church because it was church that gave me everything I have. Everything that I know how to study because of church. Because I took notes when the pastor, because I wanted to know more, so I wanted to write it down. I learned to study. I got comfortable talking to people because of church. Everything positive in my life. So I would encourage you, it may not seem like it, you may not know, but if you're looking for answers, there's only one place you can go and get it, and there's one place that's the best to get it. And literally, I can tell you that I have the job I have because of God. I have the family I have because of God. I have the life I have because of God. I have my extended family around me, folks that I've known because of church that are in some ways, and my wife can attest to this, are closer to me than some of my actual family because we all have the same desire to try and serve God and to learn more about Him. So if a person's out there and they're looking for answers, being somebody who didn't have any, I'm telling you the answer is God. There's no doubt about it. And I would encourage anybody to you want to know, the easiest thing in the world is just to say, show me. If you're open, if you're looking for it, you'll find it, because I went to the Catholic priest and it wasn't there, and I went to the Methodist church and it wasn't there. I found it because I was looking for it, and I was looking for it honestly, and if you look for the truth honestly, God will give you the truth. If you go with a preconceived idea about what you want, then you can potentially believe a lie. And so whatever kind of life you had, I can guarantee your life will be richer, fuller, and better if God's a part of it.
Anybody else like to give a testimony? Brother Esther, come forward.
I've been around a long time physically. God found me back in 1958. I knew of Him. I was born into a family that was born again. My mom and dad were both saved. And I grew up with a drug problem. I was drugged to church 3 times a week, whether I wanted to be there or not. And when I was 9 years old, I saw and I understood that what I needed was a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ rather than just a head knowledge. I knew about Him from the time that I was old enough to understand, but I didn't connect with the reason that He really came into this world. He came to die so I wouldn't have to die for my sins. And when I realized that the wages of sin is death, and somebody has to die for my sins, it was either going to be me or it was going to be the sacrifice that Jesus Christ made on the cross. His death would pay the price for my sin. And when I realized that, and I took Him at His word, and I accepted Him as my Savior, I went on through school, high school, graduated in In 1968, I joined Uncle Sam's Navy, and in his infinite wisdom, he sent me halfway around the world to the Philippines and Vietnam. And it helped me grow up, but I stepped away from what I knew was the truth. And I remember in my 30s saying, knowing full well that Jesus Christ was going to come back someday, praying, Lord, don't come back now. I'm just really not ready for you. And then through circumstances, I ended up with two wonderful boys who were born in the 70s, and a marriage that went sour, and got out of that. Was either get out or get out feet first. God brought another lady into my life. For 15 years, we had a wonderful experience. The Lord took her home with cancer back in 2013. And then a few months later, I met the lady that I'm married to. That I'm married to now. The greatest, the most wonderful blessing in my life has been this lady that's in my life right now. And God is, I came back to the Lord in the late 90s, and studied and grew, and have continued to fellowship with, when we met. Lois and I had known each other for less than a month, and we came to Pastor Sam and says, we need to get married. And he didn't bat an eye. He said, yes, you do. And so, well, will you marry us? He said he would. And some of these wonderful people were there and shared that day with us, and we thank you for that. And I've grown to love and respect and honor all you guys, and I met a bunch of new folks in the last 2 months, and I really appreciate that. Our church is, I used to look out from up here when I would come up to sing, and there'd be 6 or 8 people out there. Now there's 3 times that many. What a blessing. I want to share a verse with you guys that's meant so much in my life. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work to judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So that verse made me realize that what I was doing needed some adjustment. And when I realized that I needed to change my life back onto the path, that's when he really opened up life to me. And then when he opened up my life, he brought a lady into my life that just really filled me up with full overflow. Thank you, baby.
Yeah, I remember going and giving them 2 marriage counseling before I married them. I told them, you 2 are old enough to be my parents, and you have much more experience than I do. You don't know what you're getting into. I can't help you. They're anybody else? I thought I saw. I was mistaken. It's like them auctions. You can't move when I'm asking. Anybody else? All right. Let's have a couple songs, and then I'm going to give y'all a Christmas message. All right.